Good afternoon. So I'm Dee Sturgess from Bums on Seats. I'm the Director of Talent and Training at Bums, and I'm joined today by the wonderful good friend of Bums on Seats, Paul Pavli. How are you doing, Paul?
Really good, Dee. Thank you for having me. Really good to see you.
And you, welcome along. So, for those who may not have heard of you, and I can't believe that that would be many people out there because I know you are well known in the industry. And Paul, tell us a little bit more about your business and Paul Pavli Consultancy.
Thanks, Dee. Yeah, really good. Really good to see you. It's a really small company. Work for myself, acting as an advisor, a consultant, a non-exec director in the sector. Been going about 4 years now, and working with a small number of clients, helping them, I guess, make changes for their business. And it could be looking at the future, and that could be an exit plan, or it could be about turning the business around, and giving advice, being a critical friend, helping them maximize, I guess, their potential in their own business. Often working with small businesses rather than large ones. Good fun, but challenging right now in the sector.
Absolutely. More challenging than we've ever known. So obviously you're joining us today as part of our No to Last Orders campaign and the fight against hospitality closure. And I think obviously it's particularly poignant to actually speak to you because I know you have been helping a lot of those smaller businesses through the extra challenging period that we've had recently. So I do want to ask you, Paul, how have you found and how have you found this for your clients? How have you found the current cost of living crisis has changed consumer behaviour within hospitality?
I mean, it's been a challenging couple of years, but the last year really has hit the consumer a lot because, in the first couple of years of COVID, they had lots of spare cash. We all did. I guess we weren't going anywhere, weren't going very much. And, the last year or so, we've been hit at home. We all notice it on our weekly shopping bills, on our energy bills, and, and our rent and our mortgage, I guess. So it's probably impacted them more, probably since the summer of last year than ever before. But I think it's wrong to think that no one's spending any money because it's affecting certain parts of the demographics. So there are certain parts that are still going out quite a lot. What I've seen is potentially, even at the top end, consumers maybe going out a bit less. So maybe they're going out, 3 times a month rather than 4 times a month. Or it could be if they're much younger and go out more often, it could be twice a week rather than 3 times a week. So they're picking and choosing when to go out and where to go. But they're more demanding than ever before. Pre-COVID, I'm sort of seeing now much more demanding than pre-COVID. People just because they're paying for that experience now and they're paying much more for it, then it needs to be right. And lots of businesses get it right and some get it wrong. And the excuse is, it's about COVID and staffing. And frankly, I don't think they really care anymore because they're paying top dollar for those experiences. So sort of seeing them being more demanding. They're coming out a bit less, as I sort of said, but actually I think they're spending a bit more when they come out. So that spend per head is growing. So they're coming out. Maybe they're not spending the same money they would in a month. Maybe it's a bit less, but it's more than the average per visit when they come out. And I'm seeing that in businesses I'm working with, where their average spend per head across the group, it's a Brighton-based group, is for £50 a head. But actually, a few days a week, sometimes it will go to £70 a head. And you think, well, what happened on that night? What happened on Wednesday last week in Brighton to make 100 covers, 100 consumers that came out spend more money?
Yeah.
Let's not. So go back to my first point. Let's not think no one's spending money. People are spending money, and it's how we can make sure we maximise that when they're in our venues. So to me, it's about that flexibility in the menu that allows someone to come out on a Wednesday night and spend 50 quid. But if it's a special occasion, to let them trade up because they can order a main course or 3 courses rather than 2, or even that fancy bottle of wine they wouldn't normally order. So spend is good. Frequency is slightly down. Is that a bad thing? Possibly not, actually. I think that's quite a good thing. Consumers are also choosing to either trade down to value or trade up to premium. So that middle mainstream casual dining bit, I think, is where it's much tougher right now. You got to really give a good consumer offer for someone to want to come out on a Wednesday night, in the winter or before the spring hits to spend time in your restaurant.
No, absolutely. I completely agree, Paul. And it's really interesting. It's exactly the same pattern that we've seen across our clients as well. It's the demand is still there, but certainly people have become more discerning and rightly so, really.
And I guess and a hang on from maybe COVID when we were all about bookings. I think I'm seeing much more bookings now. Even I'm working with a Yummy group in London, and their Euston pub, which everyone listeners will know. 80% of people that are coming in there are booking, even just for drinks, because if you're going to go out and meet your friends, once less a month, you want to make sure that you're going to go somewhere that's not going to say to you, sorry, we're either closed or we're full. So much more booking. So that's where companies work with your kind of company, and actually make sure that system works, that interaction works really well.
Absolutely, that whole pre-visit experience has now become even more important.
Yeah, and actually, if they're booking and paying, also, you're good at this, you guys. If they're booking and pre-paying ahead of time, when they turn up on the night, it's a free night. They've already paid for it, so there's the chance then to say, hey, how about trading up from your Pinot to a bottle of fizz tonight? That's where it's really working really well, or that extra round of cocktails, because they've already paid for it. They paid for it 2 weeks ago.
Absolutely. It's always that opportunity for that greater spend per head when someone's pre-booked. We know that's proven in the figures, that people that pre-book, and certainly that may prepay, will actually then spend more on the night, because quite potentially it's coming out of two different wage packets.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Let's talk recruitment, Paul. So obviously you and I, we started our career around a similar time, back in the dark ages. And I do remember sort of back in the 90s that I would never get through a bar shift without someone coming in, clutching a CV and waving it at me and going, hey, can I have a bar job? And obviously those days are so far gone now. And we have this massive recruitment crisis for a variety of reasons, from COVID to Brexit to global recruitment problems around. How have you been advising your clients, and how have you seen your businesses to approach this crisis in any positive way?
It's definitely got better over the last 6 months or so. That's for sure. It was much harder a year ago, 18 months ago. It's definitely got easier. That's probably because companies have also reorganized themselves. That maybe there's less people on shift actually certain times of the day. Maybe even looked at menu stuff. So it's definitely got easier. I keep hearing people talking, cleverer than me on webinars or at conferences, saying the issue isn't a recruitment issue. The issue is a retention issue, and that's semantics really. And I guess they could be right. They probably are right in some cases. We have got better as a sector about reputation. I remember when I first started out there, it was like, couldn't you get a real job? Is that why you're in catering, sort of kind of thing? It's got much better, but we're still not where we need to be. I'm still going out there and seeing, businesses that aren't giving their staff the rota 2 weeks in advance. And it may be it's coming out on the Thursday for the following Monday. Well, how do the staff plan for their own social life, or actually their own private life, where they need to be at home to do something? Doctor's appointment or a delivery coming in. So even the basics are not getting right everywhere. I keep talking to the guys I'm working with, saying it's got to be at least 2 weeks ahead of time. Somebody needs to know where they're working and what their shifts are in 13 or 14 days. Pay's got much better, which is great for the staff. Clearly a pressure on the sector. More businesses now I'm seeing are doing service charge, even in a wet-led concept where we're doing lots of table service now, which again hang on from COVID. So there's tipping coming into these guys, so we're able to pay these guys more, and in a way they benefit from. The busier the bar, the busier the restaurant is, the more that these guys take home. So that's a real positive. I still think I'd give us a 7 out of 10 for the staff charter. How do we get across to our new members of staff what working for this business looks like, and why very important in this? So, I sort of keep saying less knee-jerk reactions. There was a famous brand recently had to go back on paying for their breaks, paying staff breaks rather than not paying for their breaks. They put that in place in COVID, and they've just taken it away. So maybe the staff are no worse off than they were 18 months ago, but it's a negative. So for me, it's about no knee-jerk reactions. They clearly had a reason for that. I'm not saying they were wrong to do it, but for me, it's about have a plan and work to that plan, and less knee-jerk stuff. But a sensible plan on this is what working here looks like, and it's not just about pay. it's about the other stuff. It's about saying to them, you're going to know what you're doing 2 weeks in advance. It's about saying, here's the bonus structure, or here's what Tronc looks like, and here's how we give all of our Tronc to our staff. It's about development. If somebody wants to progress, what it looks like. Somebody might not want to progress. They might just want to come in and do 10, 15, 20 hours a week, and that's it. And that's fine. That's fine. Don't push those guys. But for the ones that do want to progress, what does it look like? And helping them grow, and not being worried about training somebody because they may leave you because you've trained them really well. That's great. But if you don't train them and they stay behind, then you've got untrained staff. So a recruitment charter, a staff charter, what working for us means. And somebody may offer that person, 10, 15, 20p more an hour, 50p more an hour. But are they going to look after them like you're looking after them? It's all that kind of stuff,
I think it's a very, very valuable point. And I think we've always worried in hospitality that we lose people due to the pay. And I think even more so we're seeing this now with Gen Z. It's actually a lot more down to work-life balance. Yeah. And as you rightly say, having a development path if you want to pursue that. And I think if you hone in on looking after your people and well-being, that actually can outweigh any financial benefit.
And we've all had phone calls, in our careers, where somebody says, "Hey, I've heard about you. I think you're really good. I want you to come work for me." If you're happy in your role, you take the phone call. You don't go for an interview. You don't leave. You're not going to leave and risk losing what you've got for the sake of 20, 30 quid a month, a week. Sorry, I know that's a lot of money for some people, but actually I'm not sure people just leave because of pay. They leave because offered more money, and it's all right working where I am. It's not great. They don't really like me. They don't respect me. No one's developing me. They leave because of the reasons. No one really leaves just because somebody's given them a few pence more an hour. I don't think, anyway. Might be proved wrong. You might get load of abuse, load of stuff on this to say, what does he know? I think people leave for for more than one reason.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And we've done some surveys and some work on this internally. And it's always been surprising that it's actually work-life balance, well-being at work and happiness at work that does rate higher than what you're earning. So wise words.
Yeah, good.
Paul, diversity, inclusivity. Obviously, there's been an awful lot of talk about this, and particularly in our industry of recent. So what advice would you give to operators that are trying to not just ensure that they tick the box in diversity and inclusivity, but they actually move forward in this? Have you got any views on how that can be incorporated into a client's business?
It's ironic you're asking me about diversity on a Friday, and this happened a few weeks ago, and somebody else got in lots of big trouble. It's a tough area, diversity and inclusion, right? For me, it means, I guess it means different things to different people. For me, it means treating people fairly.
Yes.
And not just a section of people. And so for me, it's about being fair and honest with people, I guess. So my advice has been and would be, first of all, put it on the agenda. So to talk about it in the business, and it's quite scary because I'm often scared to say things because you think, I might say the wrong thing that might, be 2 or 3 months out of date in terms of language and stuff. So for me, first of all, put it on the agenda. Carry out some research. Have a look at things that have happened out there. Just carry out some research. Create, find an expert to champion diversity and inclusion in your business. That could be somebody in the business already that's really good at that kind of stuff. So find somebody in the business that's going to be the champion for that. And if you're the owner or the MD or the manager of that venue or that business, that's fine to have somebody that reports into you looking at that and challenging you, but give them the freedom to do that. And then create, I guess, a vision and a plan. What do you want it? How do you want to do this in the business? How do you want to make sure it is part of the fabric of the business rather than just a tick box exercise? So create a vision, create a plan. Set some realistic goals about when you want to get to what good looks like, I guess, and some sort of timeline. But ultimately, for me, it's about I know diversity is more than just about how you treat people. It's about the kind of people that you're recruiting in the business. But for me, it's also just about treating people with respect, treating them well, listening to them, not judging too quickly,
Yeah.
and I guess more importantly, being open to change, being open to do things differently. Because if you're gonna get this right, and I'm no expert at all, then you're gonna have to do things differently and change some mindsets within the business. Because people are scared. People are scared of change, always have been, and this is quite scary. And the scary bit is that people are scared. I think we're in danger of stopping good people who try to do the right thing, giving their opinion for fear of saying the wrong thing. Sometimes I'm scared. I go to conferences and stuff, and they say, "Is there any questions?" And I got a question in my head. I'm thinking, well, keep your hand down, Paul, because it might come across wrong. You might be using a phrase that's out of date for fear of trying to ask a question for knowledge, or for it could be a challenge as well. So don't be scared about getting things wrong, I guess, as long as you're trying to do the right thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's really interesting and lovely to hear that honesty. And I think ultimately, if you have that culture within your business about treating everyone fairly, and that awareness that does then obviously cascade right the way through to your recruitment. And as we've found in the last few weeks, we do still have work to do as an industry, but again, if we think back to when we started our careers, I think we have definitely moved forward.
Definitely. And in the last 12 months, we have moved forward at a rapid pace, but just not fast enough, right?
Yes. Yeah. Well put. Let's talk about guest loyalty and off the back of that, sort of occasion bookings, which obviously I realise are two different things, but potentially you can capitalise on one of those with the occasion bookings to obviously use that to bounce into guest loyalty. Have you particularly seen any great examples of this recently, or is there a certain sort of way of dealing with that you've been championing with your own clients?
Yeah, I guess there's so much tech out there right now, that we didn't have, didn't even exist 5 years ago. That helps with all of this kind of stuff, whether it's loyalty, whether it's reward, whether it's understanding who those consumers are and where they go when they're not with you, who else they go to, not just in this sector, but actually where they spend their money, I guess, out of hospitality. My biggest, sort of frustration when I go out and talk to people is they've got all this tech out there, and actually it sort of works okay, but it's not really being interrogated, not really being analysed. So got all this data we're collecting when somebody logs into the Wi-Fi, or when they book on 7 rooms, or on Open Table, but actually we're not then looking to see the kind of person that comes into the restaurant and how we can get more of that kind of demographic of person in. So for me, often sort of saying, you've got all this stuff, but actually who in the business whose job is it to analyze the data and create either a dashboard or create a report that says, right, here's the marketing plan based on the data that's come out of our last 3 or 6 months research of our own clients. So my challenge always to these companies is, if you're using this stuff and you're paying for this stuff and using this stuff, then use it properly, because you talk about occasions. The way to run a, again, the Brighton-based restaurants I'm working with, they've got a brilliant brand called Burnt Orange in Brighton. It's all small plates. It's Mediterranean-inspired small plates. And they recently ran a fantastic wine night on a Wednesday. It was volcanic wines with food tastings, sold out within a couple of hours, because they targeted consumers they knew were into that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So they weren't sending an email to somebody who either never been there or doesn't drink wine when they go into that restaurant. So that for me, it's about using the data to target people for those occasions. I get for my birthday, which is in a few days, every year, an email from all these different brands that I engage with on social or on their Wi-Fi, offering me, when I go in, a bottle of Prosecco when I go and put my birthday meal there. I've never drunk Prosecco in that venue. I'm not a Prosecco drinker. I like wine. Wine's lovely, but not Prosecco. Yeah. Or I had a coffee offer a year ago that said, come in for a coffee, but you can't have oat milk, almond milk, you can't have an iced coffee. It's like, if you're going to give me a birthday drink, just give me what I normally drink, or let me drink what I want to drink.
Slightly
So for me, it's about
dairy intolerant.
Know your consumers and tailor it to those consumers. For me, it's about personalising that experience and giving a consumer, making them feel special, like they feel when they go to the Savoy Grill, or when they go to, one of those fine dining places, and they're spending £100 a head or £200 a head, giving them that experience in a £50 or £60 a head restaurant they go to more regularly, because they're regular there, tailoring that experience both before they come, but also once they're there, and using tech to acknowledge that I know you. Know who you are because you booked with us. I know you've been here 7 times in the last 4 months. You're obviously a fan of our business, and we thank you for that. And I've given you the same table as last time, and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. I mean, there's so much great information in our systems, and I know obviously like us at Bums on Seats, you use an awful lot of that information within your consultancy, but there is so much more that we can do there. Absolutely.
But often the problem is there's so much data that companies can't afford to dissect it and to analyze it. And my challenge there will be just to then decide what's important, and just draw down on that data if that's the important bit, and just use that. But saying there's too much data, so I can do nothing with it, is a cop out. Saying there's a load of data, and right now for the next 3 months we're going to focus on this area here, and that may be repeat guests, that may be events, that may be driving spend, by allowing you to come in and saying to you, hey, we know last time you came, you ordered the Albarino, but actually we've got some fantastic new wines in today. Can I talk you through those? Yeah. It's that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. And it is a massive revenue opportunity.
Yeah.
So my last question for you today, Paul, and I know we've chatted about this before, and it's been a thorn in many operators' sides, but especially with clients that are based in the city. Rail strikes and the impact that's had on some businesses. But obviously we have recently seen some different campaigns that businesses have put together to try and find a way around this. How have you found the impact on your clients, and have you seen any outstanding examples of working round this huge disruption to business?
It's a killer. So, 2 of the groups I'm working with have London venues, and it's just the whole week is a write-off. Yeah. The strike days have been spread over 5 days of the week, or 2 days of the week, a Wednesday and a Saturday or a Friday and stuff. And then you think, well, the days around it are just awful. So they are just a killer, and the unions are saying that's just they're just trying to do the right thing for their members, and that's fine. But just admit, guys, that you're trying to have maximum disruption. If I was the union rep, I would want maximum disruption, and just admit it, right? That's what they're doing. That's what they're there for. So the weeks that we have rail strikes, when there's a 2-day strike or a 2-part strike, well, that week is a write-off. I haven't seen anybody yet really do well in London, or in London when there's been a rail strike. What happens is you end up busier in Brighton, or you end up busier in Beaconsfield, or those areas, because people are working at home all those days rather than going in, and therefore going to the local pub after work rather than not going to the pub after work, or actually going in earlier because they're home earlier. So rather than going in at 7, they're going in at 5. I'm seeing a bit of that. What we're doing really well in those businesses that I'm working with is, and we're about to start it again for the next round, which starts in March, is to say, don't allow people just to cancel when they ring to say, I've got an event booked. It may be a table for 4 or a party or something, but there's a rail strike now. Is moving that booking somewhere else rather than just allowing them to cancel. So we're doing a lot of that. We have a lot of meeting rooms in one of the venues, and a lot of private dining across all of them actually. And they're the ones that go, and they really hurt the business. So we're sort of saying, let's move that for you rather than cancel that for you. So really being proactive on that when the strikes are announced is ringing those consumers and saying, right, there is a rail strike plan. Can we move this for you, or are you going to be okay? Yeah. So I'm not saying we have a don't cancel remote policy, but that's what we really try and do. But that's hard work, because you're ringing people who are thinking, I haven't heard about the rail strike yet. and you don't want to give them a heads up on it and then lose them. But we're doing that. And I guess what I'm really proud of one of the businesses, the Yummy business, did in the December one. A lot of customers were worried about losing their deposit because they weren't sure, and we said, look, we're not going to take your deposit if you can't come because of the strikes. We'll just carry it over, and that's the cost of the business. But it's
the
not
right
the,
thing to do for the
it's
customer,
not the
isn't it?
it's not the consumer's fault that there's a rail strike on. So why should they also be penalised? So we did a lot of that. So for me, my advice would be, again, if you're listening to this and you have a cancellation policy that trickles over and somebody in theory should lose their deposit, just give the customer their money, or not, maybe not return the money, but transfer it to another booking.
Yeah.
Allow them to come back another time, because you're going to make a brilliant loyal fan there in your business when you do that.
Absolutely, you're never going to get anyone to come back to the business by saying, I'm sorry, we're keeping your deposit. They're never going to come back.
And I know it's, for that consumer it's 15, 20, 25, 50 pounds, etc. For the business, it's a lot of money, because there's lots of those customers who've got £50 deposits. Ultimately, it's not really your money. It's their money anyway. And I guarantee if you give that money back, they're going to be so blown away by the fact that you've given them their money back when they thought they'd lose it. They're going to come out to you and they're going to spend it just a different time, and probably come back more and more and more, and probably tell their friends about it to say, they gave me my money back. They didn't have to, but I got my money back.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's retaining that flexibility, and we got better at it as an industry off the back of COVID, because we knew we had to be flexible. And I think it is just continuing that trend, because it's definitely what consumers expect, and we know that their money is, even like ours, even more precious to hang on to now, isn't
Absolutely.
it?
I mean, the Yummy business, I mean, December was awful because there was 2 different weeks of strikes, and it was the big week was the busy week, the Mad Friday week, and they tens of thousands of pounds of cancellations that they had to play around with. And we've just had a really good January and a really good first start of February. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think that some of those consumers that have come in January are the ones that suddenly thought, okay, they looked after me in December, we're going to go back. That's not a coincidence.
I completely agree, because as you know, I came into Yummy that week, and the team, the service, and the food there are absolutely wonderful. They're a complete delight, and I know obviously a big part of that is you working with them. So credit to them and to you.
Well, they're doing really well. Mondays and Fridays are quiet, by the way, because obviously everyone's working at home those days. It's the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays. I won't say what they're called. But again, going back to your first question, those trends have changed when consumers are coming out. They're coming out different parts of the week, and for me, it's about when they come out, give them a great experience, and they'll come back over and over again. Absolutely.
Paul, thank you so much for giving up some of your precious, because I know you're crazy busy at the moment, and as always, so thank you for that, and I will look forward to chatting to you soon.
Thanks, Dee. Good to see you, and see you soon, hopefully in person.
Yes, absolutely.